To keep the Dutch delta safe in the future, we need a new approach in delta management. This approach, coming from spatial design and engineering, should collaborate better with the dynamics of this Dutch delta. The Redesigning Deltas movement is a collaboration between engineers, researchers, spatial designers as landscape architects and urban designers. To study the delta, we designed 5 moments in this delta system. Learning from these 5 moments in the delta, we scaled them up to a manifesto, which has 6 propositions that are important to develop this new approach in delta management.
It is not about a question but it is more what if. And that will create a whole new way of spatial planning that revolves around transition management, interdisciplinary, and also assuming the extremes as guiding principles. The Rotterdam case is assuming this hopeful future perspective, assuming that we are doing scenario rather than a doom scenario, so we can still live there in 100 years. It assumes 4 major interventions. So one is creating the delta dike that not only protects Rotterdam but also the whole South Holland. It is assuming the damming of the new Meuse, creating a freshwater lake, giving that to the city, also for new urban development. It is creating and working on a sponge city that is self-sufficient in its water resources. And finally, the post-fossil future port based on the archipelago, the islands, also compensating in nature in the half-Earth future port.
If we continue to manage our delta as we are doing now, then we will get the same results. But we really like to adapt to the dynamics of the delta system. This means that we have to do things differently, which is about making decisions that people may not like because it's changing the way we are living in the delta at the moment. The role of design in this is important because it gives us the possibility to step outside of reality and look at what we have in another way and see qualities that we can live with it in another way in the future. The making of painful decisions is very clear in the river project, where the proposition is to value the land as a part of the floodplain of the river and not as a dry area to live in. So it means that people who can remain living there have to live in a different way.
We need to move more towards a system analysis approach, and where we think through the scales of time, space and future generations. The Zeeland case is built around 3 different scenarios that illustrate the way of system thinking and integrating and how decisions create new relations.
We utilize the delta paradox, so regulation within dynamics, which means that we do not top-down protection from a national scale, but that we look from the lower scale moments in the delta, what we need to protect or what we can transform in another type of land use. Interesting is that the 5 projects together represent this because of studying the lower scale momentum of the delta system from a soil and water perspective. All the 5 projects are also drawn together in one regional strategy.
This means that we put water, soil, ecology at first, setting the stage for the landscape design and approach instead of that we control the natural system. The answer is nature in this case. We work with nature-based and eco-based adaptation. One of the example projects is the Delftland case, in which the new built area, adaptive buildings and dwelling areas are adapted to the natural system instead of the other way around.
This represents the fact that it is an interdisciplinary design task. So we need different disciplines to work on this, but also different governments. Limburg is an example of this because the project really resembles how to collaborate with nature in making a sponge landscape to solve the flooding issue in Limburg. And at the same time, it also represents the fact that the flooding also comes from Germany and Belgium, so we really have to collaborate with those countries to solve these issues. The power of design is to be able to step outside of reality and push the boundaries into a sustainable future. It's about creating change and seeing how we can do things that lead to another, better future. Redesigning Delta movement investigated the power of interdisciplinary design, the disciplines of landscape architecture, urban design and engineering, and see how a collaboration with the dynamics of the delta can lead to a livable delta in the future.